The days of local drug busts and random motels, they were fun, but that's Breaking Bad stuff. Trump wants to take the fight to El Chapo's front yard. Cartels are now officially in the Pentagon's crosshairs, and it's not just the wall anymore. Trump ordered the kill shot.
Central Latin America.
Well, Latin America's got a lot of cartels. They've got a lot of drugs flowing, so we want to protect our country. We have to protect our country. We haven't been doing it for 4 years.
Under the black silence of the desert, the U.S. military had been waiting. The target was the Sinaloa Cartel, a convoy of trucks and SUVs that would attempt to cross through a corridor the cartel had used for years, running drugs, weapons, and money across the border. This time, however, the rules had changed. Intelligence from multiple agencies had confirmed the route, the timing, and the players involved. For weeks, Navy SEALs and the Air Force had tracked the movements of cartel lieutenants preparing for a major shipment. It was the kind of operation that could either be invisible to history or echo for years if something went wrong. The date was August 14, 2025. Satellite imagery had picked up unusual activity in the rugged northern stretches of Sonora, Mexico, near the border with Arizona. A string of armored trucks had been assembled in a rural ranch. Analysts at Joint Task Force North confirmed that this was not a decoy run.
We're talking about sending military forces to fight against the drug cartels in Latin America. Do you think it's worth sending our forces, our U.S. forces there to take this on?
Cartels where?
Yes, but it has nothing to do with Mexican territory. It has to do with their country. It does not involve our territory.
So it would be within the United States?
Within the United States, exactly.
And we love this country like they love their countries. We have to protect our country. So, we're playing a tough game.
This was a high-value convoy carrying both fentanyl and armed escorts. The DEA, working with Mexican sources, had flagged several figures in the group as mid-level commanders tied directly to Ismael El Mayo Zambada. That meant the stakes were enormous. On the ground, Navy SEAL Team 6 operators had already been flown into a desert staging area under the cover of night. Using MH-47 Chinooks, they were dropped into positions near the likely crossing point. Equipped with suppressed carbines, night vision optics, and laser designators, their mission was simple but dangerous. Pin the convoy in place long enough for the Air Force to strike. The SEALs were not there to exchange endless fire. They were there to fix the enemy in the kill zone. Overhead, the Air Force had prepared an array of assets. MQ-9 Reaper drones tracked the roads from above, relaying infrared video in real time to a command center in El Paso, Texas. AC-130 gunships were on standby, armed with 105mm cannons, 40mm Bofors guns, and precision-guided munitions. F-15E Strike Eagles loitered further out, waiting for clearance. The coordination was complex, but the principle was simple. Once the convoy crossed into the predetermined kill zone, there would be no escape. For the cartel, the night began like any other run. At around 1:45 a.m., the engines of 6 armored SUVs roared to life. Each vehicle carried 4 to 6 armed men, most of them equipped with AK-47s, grenade launchers, and stolen U.S.-made rifles. At the lead of the convoy was a Ford Raptor truck with improvised armor plating, its driver a trusted bodyguard of a Sinaloa lieutenant known as El Güero. They drove with confidence. For years, the cartel had used bribes, intimidation, and raw firepower to dominate the border corridors. Few had ever dared to directly confront them with overwhelming force. But at 2:17 a.m., the lead vehicle rolled into the zone the SEALs had chosen. Hidden in scrub brush and rocky outcroppings, the operators watched silently as the trucks passed. At a hand signal, one SEAL lifted his laser designator and painted the target. Up above, the AC-130 locked on. Seconds later, the night exploded. The first blast came from the sky, a precision-guided shell from the gunship's 105mm cannon that tore through the lead truck in a ball of fire. The convoy halted in shock as the explosion shattered the stillness of the desert. Immediately, SEAL snipers opened fire, targeting the gunners who scrambled out of the vehicles. The cartel fighters, disoriented but not untrained, tried to return fire into the darkness. They were met with surgical precision. Every muzzle flash they produced became a beacon for SEAL marksmen. At 2:20 a.m., the second wave of strikes began. The AC-130 raked the convoy with 40mm fire, shredding engines, tires, and armor plating. The cartel vehicles tried to scatter, but the road was narrow and the ambush had been carefully planned. One SUV swerved off into the desert, only to hit a concealed IED planted by the SEALS earlier in the night. The explosion lifted the truck into the air, flipping it violently. By 2:25 a.m., the cartel fighters were in chaos. Some attempted to flee on foot, firing blindly as they ran into the brush. Infrared sensors on the Reaper drones tracked every movement. Within seconds, the gunship shifted fire, unleashing bursts that cut down those attempting escape. Over the comms, the SEAL team leader confirmed, "Convoy neutralized. Secondary targets moving west." The Air Force commander gave the order for the F-15ES to enter the fight. Two jets screamed overhead, invisible to the naked eye but unmistakable in sound. They released precision bombs on two fleeing vehicles that had managed to turn back toward the ranch. Fireballs lit up the horizon. By 2:40 a.m., it was over. The desert was filled with smoking wreckage, the acrid smell of burning fuel, and the silence of defeat. The SEALS moved swiftly, clearing the area and confirming kills. They found crates of narcotics, stacks of US dollars wrapped in plastic, and enough weapons to arm a platoon. The bodies of cartel fighters lay scattered, many of them still clutching rifles. At 3:15 a.m., extraction helicopters arrived. The SEALS loaded evidence and hard drives taken from the vehicles. Among the dead, biometric scans confirmed at least 3 high-value cartel targets. The intelligence haul was equally significant. Laptops, satellite phones, and coded ledgers that would later reveal networks stretching across Mexico, the US, and even into Europe. News of the strike was kept quiet in the immediate days. Officially, Mexican authorities released a statement on September 15, 2022, describing a joint security operation in Sonora that resulted in the seizure of weapons and narcotics. No mention of U.S. involvement was made, but inside Pentagon briefings, the success of the mission was hailed as one of the most effective blows against the Sinaloa Cartel in years. For the cartel, the loss was staggering. Dozens of fighters dead, millions in contraband destroyed, and a crucial smuggling route compromised. Rumors spread quickly through cartel circles. By September 18th, messages intercepted from cartel radio spoke of betrayal, with lieutenants accusing one another of leaking the route. Retaliation was swift. In Culiacan, 2 mid-level operatives were executed for suspected cooperation with U.S. authorities. For the SEALS and the Air Force, the operation was a textbook execution of patience and overwhelming force. They had waited, tracked, and struck with precision at the exact moment the enemy was most vulnerable. The lesson was clear: even the most powerful cartel convoys were not untouchable. In Washington, D.C., the mission was cited in closed-door meetings as proof that joint special operations could deliver decisive results against transnational criminal organizations. Lawmakers debated the risk of expanding such missions, with some arguing that it blurred the line between counterterrorism and law enforcement. Still, the results spoke for themselves, a blow that would reverberate through the underworld for months. By the end of September 2022, cartel activity along that corridor had slowed dramatically. Surveillance drones showed fewer convoys, more caution. The shadow of that night lingered, a reminder that for all their power and fear, even the Sinaloa Cartel could be crushed in minutes when the U.S. military brought its full weight to bear. And for the SEALS, who walked back onto their helicopters as the desert smoldered, it was another mission completed. Another ghost story whispered among their ranks. They had waited in silence, struck with fury, and vanished back into the night, leaving behind only wreckage, fear, and the memory of what happens when a cartel dares to challenge the United States on open ground.